We got a surprise person behind me here. I got to pull to one side here. Woo! Look who it is.
Who's that?
Celine Dion.
Oh, nice.
Primarily Critical.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Primarily Critical at Movies and After Party. This would be it.
If you have not seen this film, we suggest that you do so before listening any further.
Because we've got spoilers, trivia, and opinions like crazy, and we cannot wait to share them.
Good, bad, new, weird, or gross.
We will pass judgment on them all.
Today, a priceless diamond is saved from a sinking ship only to be thrown into the ocean 84 years later. My name is Steve. I'm here with
Phil
and
John.
Today we're covering Titanic.
Wow.
We're covering an epic movie called Titanic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a fan pick. We have an honest to goodness fan. His name is Luke Skywalker, and he commented on YouTube. He said, "Do Titanic," and I said, "Hell yeah, I'll do Titanic."
And I think,
Luke,
then,
you ask and you shall receive.
ask and you shall receive.
I think I said, how can we deny a Jedi Master his wish?
Well,
So,
you know, we can't really tell much from his profile picture, but you know, what are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna do?
I like to go with
Right.
to go with the thought that he's a Jedi Master, and
It's better than like horny guy, 2025, right? So
Yeah.
So let's talk about Titanic. There's so much trivia and so much information that surrounds this movie because it's such a huge movie. I would think if you were to survey anybody on the earth, this would be in their top 10 maybe internationally, or 25. I don't know, whatever.
it's up there. It's up there for sure.
It's up there for sure.
And getting back to what you said off top there, Steve,
Yeah.
I believe Rose planned this thing when she got the invite to get on that ship. She was gonna complete the whole thing.
Of course.
Dropping
Yep.
the heart of the ocean over exactly where she was on a different ship, but at the Titanic site.
Do you think she
Yes.
was planning on dying on the ship too?
Absolutely. Oh, I don't know about dying. I mean, can you actually plan that?
Well, she could have took something that made it happen.
Anything's possible when you're in
suppose.
three digits. Yeah. You know what? Honestly, Phil, you brought that up, but the first words that Rose says to that dude, whatever his name is, the Bill Paxton guy.
Oh yeah. The
what's his character's name?
he's the modern day guy that's like the captain of the mission that's currently trying to get at the Titanic to get that said heart of the ocean.
She
I don't
said
think we
the
have him
first
listed as. Yeah. Go ahead.
the first thing she says to him is, "Have you found the diamond?"
Yeah, right.
And it's, what? Because I've seen this movie more than once, and I also, like, on a side note, the more you watch it, the longer it is.
Oh, it's a long movie. Let's make no mistake. It's a long movie. It took me 4 days on this go around. I've seen this movie probably 5 times, in a couple different theaters at home, but this time around it's 4 days to complete because it's so long and I only had so much time. So Bill Paxton's character was Brock Lovett, and he's the guy, I guess, the producer or the trying to find this diamond in the wreck, right?
Yeah, he's a honest to goodness treasure hunter, you know. I think he's got sponsors, and they had high hopes.
Yeah. You see them like having a camera crew watching and documenting this situation, and that book ends the movie, right? We get introduced to the movie, and then it ends with them, and it, like,
and a couple interludes in there too. They break to go back to them.
Did they? I don't recall. But how many times you guys see this movie? And
oh God. Okay. Well, for me, this was when this came out in the theater, I had not gone to the theater in years. It was at a time in my life where I just was not theater going, you know, and we had someone tell us that you guys have to see this movie in the theater. So off we went to the theater, and of course we didn't regret it. I mean, it was, you know, it was an amazing experience, especially and back in the day when you see it for the very first time. Quite exciting, right? But then we watched it, you know, of course it came out in video, and we watched, but our kids were at the age where they started loving this movie. So we watched it because you know how children are. They don't just watch a movie once, they watch a movie 20 times, right? So this movie was just on kind of all the time in our house for a period of time. So yes, I've seen it many, many times. How about you, Steve?
Yes,
I've seen it a number of times. I saw it in the theaters, I think, and I've seen it whenever it popped on TV, and I think I own it. It was a gift at one point. I've seen it, I would say a half a dozen times at least. Yeah. And the first time I watched it, I never even noticed the clock. I was riveted. I wanted to see every second that this movie had to offer. But this time around, I was looking at my watch. I was like,
really?
Geez, yeah, when is this gonna end? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's another question. Did you guys all like enjoy this movie? Like, how is this ranking your ranking?
I liked it. I liked it very much. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. But let's talk about how well it held up since the last time you've seen it until today. And I think Steve was alluding to that. I have some thoughts on that.
Like, I think this movie is going to hold up. I think certainly it's going to have the same magic that it did for me, for anyone who hasn't seen it, if there's such a thing left on this planet. But if there's a person left on this planet that hasn't seen it, they're going to love it the first time they see it. I think it holds up. It's going to stand the test of time in that aspect, right? The problem is, for me, I can't really say, I'll ever have that same reaction because I've seen it so many times.
Oh,
right? So it's just the magic has kind of been sucked out of it, so to speak, right?
It's worn out for you.
yeah, that's right.
For me, I have not seen it for over probably 10 years, and it really stood up. It still works for me in the movie. I have some problems with it, and I can talk about that. I'm sure you guys might have some issues. Biggest issue I think of the movie, it's a great movie. It's epic. It's everything, I mean, you could ever ask for from something like the scale of the money. They apparently was the most expensive movie at that point, $200 million to make this movie. It made like over $1 billion to this point, so it did well. But
it did well. According to Wikipedia, they made $2.1 billion.
Yeah.
$2.1 billion off this.
That's movie. A smashing success.
Success.
The biggest thing that annoyed me about this movie, and it still annoys me, is how over the top the fiance Cal's character is being an evil piece of shit. And it's kind of like, did you really need that? The disaster of the Titanic snapping and going under is enough drama for me that I don't know how much they needed like villains thrown into the mix. But thoughts?
He's not used to having his life in danger. I mean, I kind of get it. You know, he has no concept of how perilous his situation is.
And he's used to always getting his way. I mean, this is the thing. This is a guy that probably his entire life has always gotten everything he wanted.
Yeah.
And now he's faced with two things he doesn't want. This cruise is going down being sunk in the ocean. He doesn't want that. And he's losing his fiancée. He doesn't want that either. So this is probably like a crisis for a guy like him, right? Because he's used to always getting the things he wants.
How ridiculous is it that he pulls the gun off his henchman buddy? And I think you might be thinking about that scene where that was the climax of, oh, come on. He starts shooting at them until the point where he has no more bullets and he chickens out to even go into the water to chase them. Jack and Rose.
Yeah.
And I thought I could have used that character could have been toned down a bit more and spread out because there was enough shady characters of people. There's enough. But anyways, they went with that.
Yeah, you know, I actually like that. I liked how crappy he was because, well, I have this thing against, really rich, snotty people anyway. So I like that they vilified him in the way that they did, right? So,
And that was part of the theme of the movie, too. There was the first class and the third class and, people in between. But the whole class structure, the wealthy and the working class in that ship contained.
Yeah.
And we got demonstrations of that all the time. I love that scene where Jack pulls Rose out of that dinner, the snooty dinner party on the top deck with the captain and the whole deal.
Yeah.
And they go down to the belly of the ship and they have a great time just chugging beers and dancing and it shows you that.
They did this throughout the movie in a really great way, is that they did these where they show what's going on in third class and then they show what's going on in the first class, right?
Yeah.
And they did that during that scene. And in that scene, you go, wow, third class looks a lot more fun than first class, right? But really all the other scenes, it was the other way around. They showed, ma'am, you might want to, put on this life vest, and okay, we'll have tea out there. And then they show down third class, this guy running down the hall, get your life jackets on, and like throwing them at people, right? It's just, they do these things back. I thought that was a neat way to sort of put that contrast of the classes,
It was totally cool. It was totally cool. And they even kept it up all the way to the end when they're on the Carpathia and they're recovering from everything. The one guy says, "Oh, you shouldn't be here, sir. This is steerage."
Yeah.
Right? It's just the guy is
the
totally
rescue
toned
boat.
down.
all the staff that you're thinking, oh man,
it's crazy.
There's so much to unpack from this movie because it's so long and it's so epic and it's so everybody has a good. Well, the people that like this movie, I understand there's a backlash to it because it was so huge and it's like it just was really epic to that time, 1997, right? And
huge,
that song, Celine Dion song, right? Celine Dion there.
Yeah,
top-notch soundtrack. The soundtrack music was amazing. I mean, I think it just fit. It even the instrumentation fit with that, ocean sounds and
It's such a well-made movie. It looks so good. It's well shot. The acting's really well done, and it's terrifying and graphic in the nature of how they depict people dying on this disaster.
Yeah,
and it goes on for like an hour and a half, I think, as I recall. From the time the shit's going down, and they show all manner of ways you could die on this Titanic.
I know, it's great.
And they didn't hold back. They did not hold back.
I have something to say. This movie is surprisingly current in one aspect of it. You know how Jack and his buddy there, they ran onto the ship, and they said you went through you got checked, right? Because they were checking everybody for lice. They were checking everybody for lice, and they said, we went through the health, for sure, no problem, and nowadays they're discussing vaccine passports and all the rest of it. So I mean, it's just I don't know. It made me think,
Well, it's true. That is current, and in this day and age, it is just like then. I mean, they're talking about the passport, and they're implementing the passport in certain ways. But just like then, I realized I flew to Vancouver, came back, and you can do that in this day and age as long as you, if you have a vaccine passport, you don't have to quarantine for the 14 days. But I realized nobody checked me. So that's a complete honor system. So really, it hasn't changed all that much. It's kind of like I could say, yeah, I have a vaccine passport. Really, no one's checking. So
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I think.
Yeah. I don't have lice.
Yeah.
Just I thought
I don't either.
Did you guys see? There was a cow. Rose's fiance seemed to have a bit of a thing with Rose's mom. Did you notice that? They kind of had this like understanding. It was kind of like they would have been a much better couple.
Well, they both wanted Rose to be with him, so I think that's they were, comrades in that. Right?
Yes, they were comrades in the fact that they need each other. Cal needed to marry to get the inheritance, I think, and so on.
No, Cal didn't need her. Cal was rich on his own, in my understanding.
Well, nobody. He was due to have inheritance.
Oh.
I've read a lot about this, and that's his desperation to like. Well, so I don't know. There's a lot of stuff about Titanic. That's for sure. So.
Yeah. I did a little bit of homework. On Molly Brown, the unsinkable Molly Brown.
Yeah, this is a real woman in history.
This is a real woman in history. She was a formidable woman who did a lot of hard work for a lot of good causes, and she's apparently a spectacular woman. They didn't, and she's great in the movie too. And so apparently that wasn't made up. They were trying to be true to her character. Her character, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fact mixed in with fiction, and like people think that Rose and what's his face there, are Jack. Rose and Jack are real people and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of
completely fictitious, but what my understanding of this movie is that James Cameron wanted to stick to the stuff that he could make real. He made sure to be very real too. Like he was meticulous about it, right down to the little details of things like when the ship was sinking and they show the plates coming off. That was the Titanic. Apparently, was the first cruise ship where they didn't put pieces of wood to stop plates from falling off because they thought it was so stable you didn't need it, right? And so all these little details he was meticulous about and making sure they were there and accurate to history. Yet then you throw this completely fictitious story right in the middle of that, right? But
I think that's what makes the movie so great. It is two movies. There's a romance in it, like a romantic thriller, and then there's also the ship going down, right? And they coexist together, and they do a wonderful job.
Amazing job. I think it's great historical fiction. I think it's that's the way you do it. I think this is exactly how you do it. If you're gonna, because sometimes history just isn't. I had this conversation and maybe I'll have with you guys. Do you think they could have found real passengers that had an exciting story to tell? And why not go that route? Because I mean, there's a lot of people. There's 2,000 people. Of those 2,000 people, there must have been somebody with an interesting life, an interesting story that you could have actually gone in and written about and brought in this movie. Why didn't they? Right?
Well, it's a mixture. There's a whole bunch of stories, and they weave in like factual things like Molly Brown and the captain and all the real people, and
the band that was playing.
Things I've heard, right? Yeah. There's so much out there, like to unpack, of course, and it's epic, man. Wow, James Cameron. Do you guys know his body of work, right? He did Aliens, and he's Terminator 2. I can see
The Abyss.
The Abyss. He is like he was well prepared to make this movie, because I can see in the movie, as seeing it again after all these years, flourishes of his action and his handling on water movies and all of it. It's so good. I mean,
I would say The Abyss was the closest thing that came to this. I mean, they're still quite far apart, but you're at sea and you have this, it's quite an epic landscape for the movie and lots of effects and so forth.
Spectacular stuff. it's even after knowing it, even though we know what happens because we've seen the movie so many times, it still like got me in the feels. Like I got emotional at the end.
Yeah,
again.
I got choked up too. I fell for it again.
I did. And damn it, there's such epic scenes when so many, but one of them is like shocking moment when have the search boat going out and all the people are, no survivors. It's dead quiet. It's eerily quiet, right? And they're shouting out, and Rose just is summoning up the energy to scream out, and she eventually grabs a whistle and does that. But when the search party's
she's dying
going
of hypothermia, right? So.
Oh yeah. And
I don't know what that does to your lungs, but I would imagine it's not good.
She didn't have the energy but there's a scene where she lets go of Jack and he slips off into the water. It's just eerie, but so emotional. And it's so, all that whole scene was so.
Yeah.
After everything, after the ship going down, just the ending, like the last 15. Wow.
Well, it's heartbreaking. I mean, all the really love stories that really just punch you in the gut. They're always these tragic ones. A tragic love story. It there's something about it that just brings up the emotions in a way that you just can't in any other way. When you have that.
Guys, I would go as far as to say about this movie is my favorite romantic movie.
It's quite a love story.
Really?
I don't know what else would top it. So why not? Titanic.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Let's get on to like some more heavy stuff.
Okay. Jack, do you find him to be a little bit pushy?
Pushy?
Okay. A little bit. And I think but we got to go the context of the period.
Right.
Men were considered to be, take the lead over ladies, right? Over women, right? So, but yes, he certainly does thing like he's constantly telling Rose what to do.
And she's constantly saying no.
Wow.
No, Jack. No. And then he's like, oh, come on.
I didn't see it that way.
No. You watch it again. You just listen to all the no's.
I'd have to reflect on it. I see him as like a life coach trying to like pull Rose, out of that shitty situation and free her. And
the worst. There's a scene though, to Steve's point, that is in this day and age would probably borderline like legal action could have been taken, where he's like he sneaks in, grabs that coat, and pins her into. It looks like I don't know, just off the deck into that room, and he's like trying to convince her that I'm not going to let that spark go from your eyes or whatever, and sooner or later they're gonna. And he's got her pinned, like he's kind of. And she's like, Jack, I can't, Jack, no, and it's like he's just not listening, right? He's in her space, he's confining her, and she's saying no, and he's just not giving up, right? So, that's really frowned upon today. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's frowned upon today.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I have to think about that, but I was going to add.
Yeah.
All I was going to add is that Jack Dawson seems like impossibly the yin and the yang. You got Kel Hockley, evil son of a bitch, and Jack is like this impossibly charming, persuasive. Yeah. I'll say persuasive.
Sure.
It's super charming, like free spirit that is intoxicating to Rose, who, as I understand it, is only 17 in the movie, which shocks me because that's a teenager. Can you imagine all that happening?
They're definitely in tune with each other, and I never personally got the no feeling, but I mean, it's just interesting things like that
There's so much to talk about, and to add to your point, I think Jack's character is around 20 in the movie, but he looks younger than Rose.
She does. Yeah,
yes.
I agree.
It's a weird he looks like a boy almost, like comparably.
Yeah.
It's a kind of awkward thing, but I guess people back then, and Jack's a very worldly guy. He's older. He's probably been with a lot more women, and we don't even know if Rose was it doesn't. No, we don't know. So
we don't. And is that important though? I mean, do we need to know that?
But let's just say Jack's been around probably a lot. Look at all the portraits he had. He got women.
Yeah.
If they,
okay, I want to set the record straight.
It was porn back then, maybe.
I don't know.
I just want to make it clear that I'm not saying that Jack in any way was, doing something inappropriate to Rose. I don't think so. I don't, just like Steve, I don't think so. I'm just saying there's people out there that could look at it that way. That's my only point I was making there. So I just want to set the record straight.
There's a lot of talk around this movie, and I'll pull up some talk. Conspiracy theories, guys. I got a few, but it's not in the trivia. I think I've already looked at that. This is stuff I've read and heard. What do you think of the idea? This is the big one. We all know they hit an iceberg. And as I understand it, the ship was capable of going really fast, but it could not handle worth a damn.
Right,
So
couldn't corner very well.
They couldn't turn in time, and it was like hopeless. They sideswipe it, right?
Right.
There is a talk. What if they decide to just ram the iceberg instead of trying to near miss it? That maybe they would have survived the impact. Thoughts?
If they had?
I know, this is something I read.
That's stupidity. I don't know who comes up with this crackpot stuff, but that's stupidity.
You think they could have rammed it, split it, and went through it, or just bounced off?
Because the theory being is that the front, the very tip of the boat, is the strongest part compared to the sides are much weaker.
It's and something that you'd have
much. Well, human instinct says you see an iceberg, you don't try to ram it, right? Because and plus the other thing to remember is that the tip of the iceberg is the tip of the iceberg. It's way bigger mass under the water. So the whole bottom of the ship is now, if you're going to go try splitting that, the whole bottom of that ship is going to run over, going over all the stuff that's sitting below, right? And I can't imagine that it would have fared any better doing that.
That's good. I think you just debunked that theory.
Yeah.
Any other wacky theories about the Titanic there, guys?
I did hear a theory, and we are running out of time. I might need to start another recording. But I heard there was a sister ship.
There was,
and I heard that they switched the nameplates of the ships to collect to collect the insurance.
Wow!
On an older ship.
Really?
Wow! I don't understand how. Wow.
You've never heard that?
I've never heard this. No.
So now the sister ship is called the Titanic, and the Titanic is the real Titanic is named after the sister ship now, and it's still around. It's still working, right? But that's just. I mean, that's a lot of people that killed. Yeah.
This is people that get too involved in these stories. There's people that get sucked into the Titanic sphere and they can't get out of it. And so.
Oh, absolutely. Here's a crazy one. A quick one is that on the ship itself, there was a lot of rich people, and some of the wealthiest, I guess, powerful people were on the ship, and there was this conspiracy that they did this on purpose so they could sink the ship to get rid of these people, which is just nuts. I think that one was
a lot of trouble to go through.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But on that
you
note,
gotta put a bunch of snow together and make it berg, and then
wow.
Then you gotta find a way to get it in front of the ship.
Yeah, right. It's like they had very crude ability to see, I guess, no radar. They were at the helm of these two guys up in this crow. What do they call it?
Binoculars. They don't even have their binoculars.
They didn't have the binocular?
No.
They couldn't find the binoculars.
Talk about it. They talk about it.
So they could have used there's so many things they could have done probably that. Yeah, it's just. Tragic.
Where were we in our discussion?
Trivia,
right?
I was gonna start talking about trivia, but
Trivia.
Phil did bring up an interesting point. It sunk in 1912, but it was only discovered in mid 1980s.
Really?
Where where they actually went down and dived down to look at it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
They only found the ship like fucking recently.
Well, we're talking 2 miles below the surface. They had to wait till technology would allow this to happen, right?
Yeah. And as I understand it, it was James Cameron that actually went down to the wreck, but I don't know that the footage we see it's just Hollywood or it's effects, but maybe some of it's actual. I don't know.
Who knows?
But I don't know what the current state of the Titanic wreck is right now, but I heard this one fact that in something like very soon it'll be like completely like you won't recognize it or something. It's gonna
dissipate into nothing. Nature's breaking the salt. Years and years of salt, decades of salt water is finally gonna do its number on it, and
here's crumble to shit.
Yeah.
There was always talk of trying to raise the Titanic. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard this. Yeah.
And it's just not feasible, or it's just
I mean, who wants to put a couple, I don't know, probably $1 billion into that project?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to, right?
So
it's cheaper to build two new ships.
Yeah.
Wasn't there an attempt to do a Titanic 2? There's so much to talk about, but
there is a Titanic 2.
Or I don't know if it ever got off the ground because of COVID and the whole deal. But
wait, did you say if there is? It's actually was released.
Oh
yeah. I have to.
Really?
I'm pretty sure I was IMDbing it.
Okay.
Let me just make sure. Titanic.
Absolutely.
Titanic 2, released in 2010.
Directed by James Cameron.
No, not a movie.
No.
A replica ship.
Oh, you're talking about a ship.
Yeah, like to capitalize on the whole deals. That's what I heard, that they just redid it to try to like Disneyland or something.
Okay, so we're talking about two different things here. Steve, are you talking about a movie or are you talking about a ship?
I'm talking about a movie.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Like this ship was apparently they want somebody back the idea to do a cruise ship again, but like Titanic.
Just like the Titanic, so people can actually probably make good money.
They can experience the death again.
Yeah. It's a brilliant idea, but
relive the nightmare.
I don't know I don't know if they recreate the scene every ship. Could you imagine the production? Okay, everybody, it's time for the breaking of the ship.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right.
Oh, here comes the iceberg.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh man.
Oh God.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get into this trivia before we start completely insulting everybody around us.
Sure.
Oh, there's enough time that's passed. There's nobody alive that lived it. So
we can laugh around, at try. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
At around 2 hours and 30 minutes, the elderly couple seen hugging in the bed while water floods their room were the owners of Macy's department store in New York. Rosalie Ida Strauss and Isidore Strauss, both of whom died on the Titanic. Ida was offered a seat on a lifeboat, but refused so that she could stay with her husband, saying, "As we live together, so shall we die together." There was a scene filmed that depicted this moment, but it was cut from the final version. It was Mrs. Strauss who originally said, "Where you go, I go." And that is the thing that inspired Rose's line in the film.
There you go.
Wow. So she said, "I jump, you jump," right?
Yeah.
That's the morphing from "where you go, I go."
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's based on fact. Oh.
It's based on this elderly couple that had like a couple seconds on the screen, and they were supposed to be depicting the Macy's department store owners.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Man, that's so many little scenes. This movie is so epic. So That's great. I like that little trivia there. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Go ahead, Phil.
Sure. After finding out that she had to be naked in front of Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet decided to break the ice, and when they first met, she flashed him. Well,
You know, I just love Kate Winslet. You know, she's just got such a great attitude about her. You know, and that just sort of to me speaks of that spirit.
Could you imagine anybody playing that role? She's so great in that. And here's a side trivia.
She was awesome. Like better than
amazing, yeah.
Better than Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, you think so?
She was a rock star in that movie.
I thought they both did amazing. I thought they both did great. The chemistry between those two was phenomenal.
That's why I say it's an amazing romantic movie. It is great job. But yeah, I give the nod to Kate Winslet. She's amazing. And I read a lot about this movie, and she really went after this role, and she really, I guess, pestered James Cameron to get the role. And at the time, there was a lot of celebrities, a lot of actors like that wanted this role. And so Gwyneth Paltrow was one that wanted to be Rose, and they had Matthew McConaughey in the mix and all this kind of stuff at the time. And it's interesting.
Well, you know, what's amazing is that these two, I mean, they're massive superstars now. But when this movie came out, sure, they had a career going, and they were successful careers going, but nothing.
They weren't stars.
What changed them to superstars, you know, and it launched their career in a way that was unbelievable, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good on the casting and the people to find these two to put them together, because it was magic, you know, and that just says that sometimes I think the best bet is not to go with is to do your research, do your homework, find two new people that, you know, and they'll forever be remembered as those people in an amazing way, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, John. I think the ship, the story itself is the main star, and they shot it and they made it look great. They showed it when it was at its prestige, and they showed it when it was a wreck. And they went all over the ship, but in it there was this romance and a beautiful, epic movie, just epic.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you know, you took something that was an amazing story in history, which is always gonna, you know, that's gonna fascinate people to begin with, because it's true, it happened, and then you're.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
You're true to the history. And then you spare no expense, and you go all out in a fictional love story. I mean, you know, it wasn't like it was just like we had to throw in a love story to make the movie go by to do this part of history, to capture this moment in history. No, they went all out. They went all in on the love story, and, you know, the writing of the love story and all that stuff. So it was, all in all, you got two amazing things coming together at the same time. You know, you got, and so, magic. I mean, it's magic.
And that coming from the guy that was probably beaten to death by this movie because of the kids watching it over and over.
Well, that's true. I mean, but hey, I do remember how in awe I was when I left the theater the first time I watched it. I'll never forget that.
Me too. Yeah. Oh man, that is a epic moment in my movie-going experience for sure, in the old memory bank there.
The old memory bank. Okay, John, give us this next piece of trivia. I think we'll all enjoy this piece right here.
Okay. The scene set in 1912, that is, the whole movie except the present-day scenes and the opening and ending credits, have a total length of 2 hours and 40 minutes, the exact time it took for the Titanic to sink. No kidding. Also, the collision with the iceberg reportedly lasted 37 seconds, which is how long the collision scene is in the movie.
Oh,
wow! Was that's got to be intentional, right? Or
I think it speaks to how long the movie is. Really,
Yes, but it shows you the craft of how they honored things like that. They didn't need to do that, but they wanted to cut it to that perimeters. And
does that give authenticity? Does that?
I don't know. Who would know, right?
It's James Cameron being a Titanic nerd, right?
Yeah, exactly, Steve. He's a Titanic nerd, and I love it. Go, nerd, go. Keep making movies. You know what? The only movie that made more money than Titanic was Avatar, and it was James Cameron.
Yeah. He's got something going on.
Yeah.
Let me bang out this last piece of trivia. At around 2 hours and 35 minutes, in the scene where the water comes crashing into the grand staircase room, the filmmakers had only one shot at it because the entire set and furnishings were going to be destroyed while they filmed it.
Wow.
So yeah. It's one of those scenes where everyone's holding their breath and nobody's coughing.
Yeah.
And they're like,
and people are sweating and nervous, and
it's one of those. We can't do this again.
I have heard about James Cameron and his making movies, and I've heard that making this movie and The Abyss were hell on the actors for reasons because it was dangerous. And some of the cast on Titanic got food poisoning. I heard hypothermia. Like, it was miserable. Because he's
known for this. Yeah, he's known for this. Where
he's like, I don't know if that's changed since all that, but he got some bad press. I know circulates some of his movies.
There's controversy that, he sounds, there's certainly been controversy that we've talked about over his career, for sure.
Look at the results, damn it.
Yeah.
Pretty goddamn good.
It's hard to argue when he comes out with these movies that make $2.2 billion in the box office. It's hard to argue. That kind of success.
It's also the fact that some of these actors, or maybe the employees that were working on the movie, maybe they just weren't taking care of themselves. They weren't paying attention to the situations they were going to be putting themselves in.
I don't know. There's so much stuff surrounding this movie. It's a lot of fun talking about this movie.
Yeah.
It's so huge of a movie that it took on its own life with fandom and all.
Just back to James Cameron for a second. Do you guys worry that he might be one of the people, and not if worry might not be the right word, because if he is, he should be exposed, but like a Harvey Weinstein sort of situation there, because there's been some things, and I don't want to, but the fact that we know that he was, you guys know that he was having a relationship with Kate Winslet. Right? Do you guys knew this or no?
No, I don't know that. No.
I do now.
Okay. I certainly hope I'm not starting some gossip, because this is, I thought this was just known. So maybe I should check my facts before we put this out on a podcast. But.
I feel like we just turned into like the View or something here.
Okay. Well, okay. This is what I thought this was known. I thought this was common knowledge, but when I said assuming it's true, so if it's not, my bad, but I'm assuming that's true.
Wanted the role so bad, I don't want to go anywhere. This is
but that crosses professional lines, right? That's all I'm going to say about that. I think we should, because I haven't verified this, I should probably never have brought it up. I just thought it was common knowledge, and I thought you guys would be, we all know that. But now that you don't, I'm worried, like, I might be starting some of that.
I'm not the know-all and be-all of movie critics, and I do understand what you're talking about. There's a power differential there, and and the fact that James Cameron is so demanding of his actors and staff, it brings into focus a lot lot of Hollywood abuse that's flying around, right?
It has, yeah.
You would hope that something would have surfaced to take him down, because this is one of the most high-profile movies you could ever. And with such a huge cast, there must have been people that saw or heard or did what.
Sure.
I don't know. I didn't hear. And
I keep hearing all these things about different actors that I love and directors, and like I'm a huge fan of Joss Whedon, and I'm a big fan of James Gunn, and came under fire for other things, and then Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby and all. I mean, I'm not there for. We're so far removed up here in Canada that I mean, I've never met these people. I've never met their accusers. I've never met. I just have to trust that the justice system would charge them and convict them.
Exactly.
If they did something wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the light of all that went down with the whole Harvey Weinstein thing, you would think they would have dragged out anybody that was left, especially a high-profile guy. Like everybody's probably got. I'm sure he's got enough enemies that would want to take him down, and especially Kate Winslet, because she's. If any time in history in women's rights, I think now is the time that everybody feels very free to talk about everything.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I would.
I would hope if some things that shouldn't have happened, that would come to light and it'd be dealt with appropriately.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So I'd like to think that
But it's not just that. I mean,
he's still working, right? So
he's still working. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the guy the lady that wrote the Harry Potter? J.K. Rowling.
Right.
Have you heard?
She's under fire now.
She's under fire because she basically said that if you don't menstruate, then you're not a woman, right? And a lot of people took exception to this, right? And I'm thinking, well, I don't know her, right? I quite honestly,
when you say something, you know what? When you say something like that, the media, you gotta know that's gonna be like hot button topic, and it's
This is why it's so important, guys, that we don't become successful, right? Because we have a backlog of stuff that's just going to take us down, you know?
Oh, absolutely. It's a very tough time to what to say and what you do and what was in your past and did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's So I would think that getting this all back to Titanic, James Cameron, as far as I know, is a decent, hard-working guy that probably puts too much pressure on his actors and actresses. And you better chill out, man, and keep making movies. He's got a whole plethora of Avatar movies coming out, sequels up your yin yang. So, and they're all CGI'd out the crap. So there's probably no humans got abused there. So.
Yeah. Okay. Enough of that. So one thing that we touched on, we never actually finished. You said there is a Titanic 2. Is this supposed to be a sequel to this, or like I don't.
No.
The ship was what I was talking about.
No. I'm talking about Steve. Steve mentioned
he's talking about
a movie.
But this is I'm reading now.
Yeah.
I'm reading now. This is the plot to the movie Titanic 2.
Okay.
Released in 2010. It's on Tubi TV.
What? There's actually a movie?
A century after the fateful voyage of the original, a modern luxury liner named Titanic 2 sets sail. While this ship suffers the same fate as her, will this ship suffer the same fate as her namesake? ? On the 100th anniversary of the original voyage, the modern luxury liner christened Titanic 2 follows the path of its namesake. But when a tsunami hurls a iceberg into the ship's path, passengers and crew must fight to avoid a similar fate.
Oh man, that's
so. Now this sounds to me like a low budget movie. Is that true? Is this is like someone trying to capitalize, absolutely rights to the name and
absolutely. That's trash.
It's 1.6 stars out of 10.
Oh, that sounds like.
Oh man!
You know what? If Luke Skywalker requests that movie, we gotta honor his request and review it. So, hey man, the ball's in your court again.
This, It might be a porn movie.
What? I'm sure there is Titanic porn.
If it is, I'll watch it. Anyway,
I gotta say, this is one of the most unusual reviews.
We're going to a bad place. We need to wrap this up. We need to wrap this up.
R-rated stuff, guys.
That was Titanic. We are primarily critical. You are awesome. Next week, Monday at noon, we're covering Selma, which is another lighthearted movie. John picked it.
Yeah, very lighthearted.
Yeah.
No, this would be you know how the movie Malcolm X was called Malcolm X. This movie could have been called Martin Luther King. You know, I mean, it's really Martin Luther King's story, and so definitely worth watching. I mean, I think everyone should watch it. You know,
I can't wait to talk about it next week, Monday at noon. We have a store, so if you like shirts and mugs and bags, go to our store and buy them. I mean, we're not asking for money. We're offering you a shirt.
That's right.
That you need to pay for.
Yeah. Yes, but you get your money's worth. So
but you get your money's worth. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll wrap it up. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.